In this episode 56, part 2 of the series, talking about apostles and terrorists in your business, we talk about why it's a good thing to make some of your customers upset. And also, Marshall gives us possibly the worst James Bond impression I've ever heard.
Broadcasting from the box that rocks and Thrive15.com world headquarters, it's the Daily Hustle with Daniel McKenna.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is episode 56 of the Daily Hustle. 5-6, as Marshall's helping me out with over there. Over to my left, Marshall F. Morris. Over here on this desk, Daniel McKenna. And today is part 2 of the customer loyalty episode, customer loyalty series, identifying apostles, firing terrorists, and the 5 customer groups. Yesterday, we identified these 5 customer groups: the apostles, the loyalists, the mercenaries, the hostages, and the terrorists, and what you should do about that. Today, we're going to dive into how to improve, where you should put your focus, and what you have done about creating terrorists in the first place. Marshall, how are you doing today?
I'm doing spectacularly, and I've noticed that you're wearing a new shirt.
It's a brand new shirt.
It's a new shirt.
It's a brand new shirt. I have never worn this shirt before on today. I had not worn this shirt before today on the show today.
New shirt.
New shirt. This is the Lawrence Taylor episode, 56.
Also known as Lawrence.
Lawrence Taylor, if you prefer to pronounce it that way. I think most people just call him Lawrence Taylor. Played his entire professional career with the Giants. Considered one of the greatest players in the history of football. Has been ranked as the greatest defensive player in league history by players, coaches, media members, and news outlets such as the NFL Network and the Sporting News. One of only 2 people to ever win the NFL MVP as a defensive player. Was a disruptive force at outside linebacker, credited with changing the pass rushing schemes, offensive line play, and offensive formations used in the NFL. He was so good, they changed the way the game was played. I'd say that's slightly good.
Let's run different offense because we're playing Lawrence Taylor this week.
Let's completely change the way we block people because they have Lawrence Taylor. Now we'll ignore his off-the-field issues. We're ignoring that. We're choosing to focus on the positive issues.
I would say that most teams that we play feel the same way when they play our rec basketball team and you're on the team. They're like, oh gosh, we're playing Dan McKenna this week.
I don't think that's accurate, but I appreciate that. I might make a poster of it and put it up on my wall.
You should. It should be like one of those motivational posters.
It's going to be a motivational poster, but it's like the 3D kind, where if you stare hard enough, you'll see those words and a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what kind of poster it's going to be.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and dive into this here, Marshall. Marshall, real quick, give us the skinny, just in case for some reason you missed the previous episode and you somehow tuned into this episode. Give me the really quick summary of the 5 different groups. I'll read them off to you. You give me the quick summary. First of all, 5 stars out of 5 stars. The apostles. What are apostles?
Apostles are people that irrationally promote your business. They refer friends and family without any expectation of compensation or incentive.
4 stars out of 5 stars. Who are the loyalists?
The loyalists are people that continue to do business with you time and time again, but at no point do they feel compelled to want to promote your business.
But they love you. They're just not going to tell other people.
That's right.
3 stars out of 5 stars, the mercenaries.
These are people that continue to do business with you but are liable to jump ship to a different product or a service based on a better offer.
They're just in it for the good deal.
Yeah.
How about 2 stars out of 5 stars?
These are hostages, and these are the people that are hostage to your product or service just because you're the only game in town. That's why they do business with you. You're the only option out there.
They don't really like you, but they feel like they have to use you.
That's right.
How about the 1 stars out of the 5 stars?
1 star, these are your terrorists, and these are the people that just seem to not be a good fit. They hate life, and they create headaches for you in your business, and quite honestly, you don't know why you keep doing business with them. They keep doing business with you.
Okay, well, let's talk about how we can improve these scores. We talked about yesterday how based on the transaction, based on how often you're having these transactions, and over time establishing that reputation, you can move up or down in those scores, right? Between 1 and 5 stars. So let's talk about how to improve. Earlier in previous episodes, we had talked about certain organizations like the NYPD, like Xerox, like Sears, like Taco Bell, that made major changes based off of listening to their customers. So let's talk about some options here of how we can listen to our customers. The first of all is obviously the survey. Marshall, tell me a little bit about the survey, why that matters, and how I can possibly implement that into my business if I'm a small business owner.
So what you have to do is you have to immediately understand where you're at, okay? So you have to be able to keep score with something, and the way that we're going to keep score with customer loyalty is figure out the satisfaction of these customers. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to create a survey. We have to create a list of questions of things such as, what did you like about the experience? What did you not like about the experience? What would you change about the experience? What were your expectations? How were they either met, exceeded, or under-delivered? And on a scale of 1 to 10, would you refer a family member or a friend? Xerox
started using these surveys, and they had certain goals. They decided that as technology was changing, Xerox started losing some market share. They decided, okay, by year X, we want to have all of our stores, all of our products scoring 4 out of 5 stars. We want 90% of them to get 4 or 5 out of 5 stars. That was the goal. And then by 10 years from then, I believe, or maybe it was 5 years from then, year X as well, we want 100% 4 out of 5 stars. 100% 4 or 5 stars or above, right? Like that's what they focused on. That's what the executives started pushing down. That's what the team focused on. That's how they did their compensation bonuses based off of customers saying they love the experience so much, they love the product so much. What does that do to you if you are an employee and you realize the way I'm going to get paid more is if the customer says they really enjoyed this, or the customer says that the experience was top notch, or the customer that we're going to rate them, they're going to get a chance to voice their opinion, and I get paid more if they say they loved it. What does that do for you if you're the employee?
It really gets your own skin in the game. Okay, because now it is performance-based, not effort-based. Okay, that's the important thing to understand here is we are now going to pay employees based on their results, not on how hard they tried.
And I don't remember the name of the gentleman, but in the Jack Welch book, I believe it was, Winning, talking about compensation plans, the CEO friend that he had that said, show me somebody's compensation packages and I'll show you where they're going to put their focus at.
Right.
I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it's basically saying like, okay, show me how the rules work. How do I get paid? How do I get paid more? Okay, now I know where the employees are going to focus their time. So Xerox was one of these companies that said, we want to make our focus and our incentives driven by our customer surveys coming back saying if they liked us or didn't like us. Now, how do we do that? Well, once we survey them, that's what's going to change the employee's score, change the employee's pay. Therefore, the pay or the employees are going to make sure that they're doing a very good job taking care of that customer because they want that bonus.
Hot sizzle.
Let's get into some specifics here about these surveys. They did studies among many industries, among many different surveys, and they found out that simply constructed customer surveys administered frequently and consistently are more important than the actual content of the questionnaire as long as it contains one or more requests for overall satisfaction levels. There's no right or wrong answer here, Marshall, but based off of the finding here from the service profit chain, why do you feel like simply constructed surveys administered frequently and consistently are more important than the actual questions that you put in that survey? Why does that matter?
Because if you're changing variables all of the time, if you're changing variables of the surveys, then that's not a proper baseline, okay? You have to, what you're gauging is how the customers react, not how they react to the specific question. So just keep asking the exact same question. Keep asking those questions for maybe how was your experience? Or what did you like about the experience? What you like about the experience is a very different question than what was your favorite part of the experience. Okay. It creates something different emotionally, and therefore it will elicit a different response from the customer. But if we're constantly changing the different questions that we're asking of the customers, then we're always going to get this variable answer.
And depending on the size of your business, I don't know how long it would take you to hit this number, but for Xerox, they said once we get 40,000 surveys in, that's when we have enough data to notice something. That's when we have enough data to say, okay, studies show, numbers show this compared to this. They said 40,000. Maybe for you and your business, maybe it's 100. Maybe it's 10. Maybe it's 5,000, depending on how often you're doing these surveys, how often you're doing business with other people. They said, okay, here's our baseline number. Once we hit this number, now we can look at these numbers and say, okay, pattern-wise, what do we need to do better? What do we need to do that will change the experience for the customer? Let's talk about some customer listening posts real quick before we move on here, Marshall. For the Epic company, for the photo company, for us, after every wedding, after every event, we send them a survey. It's about 10 questions long. It takes you about 3 minutes to fill out. It's mostly 1 through 10 with a couple of places to put in your own input, but it's mostly 1 through 10 to find out how we're doing in different areas. So that's our listening post. That's our, hey, we're not on the phone with you. We're not right in front of you on your face. You're knocking stuff over there.
I'm sorry. I found all my quotes that I want to use.
Okay.
Sorry. I found them all. Yeah, but you're saying that it takes them no more than 3 minutes, which is hugely important because it's not like a chore for them to do. It's not like a huge bit of homework that they have to do. You make it extremely easy for them to do. Is it web-based?
Yes.
And it's web-based. They don't have to go anywhere. They get the link,
right.
They click on the link, then they fill it out right then and there. They don't have to print something and then scan it and then send it in.
Right. So for me, for instance, every fast food place that hands you out a receipt and says, fill out this survey, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm going to immediately throw away the receipt and not think about it.
Yeah.
But if they were somehow able to like email me at a time when I was sitting down, I might take 2 minutes to fill out their survey.
Absolutely.
Especially if there's like a free something involved.
Right.
Let's just jump into a couple of your quotes here, and then we're going to move on to the importance of focus here. What kind of quotes do you have from the book Service Profit Chain that you felt strongly about you want to share here?
What I wanted to bring up is a couple of these quotes, a couple of these stats, because we understand that we have all these different customer groups, but why should we want to change them? What is the advantage of changing them? What is the marginal progress? What is the marginal improvement that we can earn? Okay. And so Xerox, a company like Xerox, they did a study, okay, and this is what they found. And I'm just reading this is a page from 81 from the Service Profit Chain. At about the same time, a junior member of the Xerox management team decided to compare the repurchase intentions. This is basically repurchasing, so therefore customer loyalty. People that make multiple orders, they repurchase, okay?
Right.
Repurchase intentions of those customers giving Xerox fours out of a scale 4 to 5, okay? Repurchase, they give them 4s, and those giving it 5s, 5 out of 5 on a satisfaction survey. So they're comparing the 4s to the 5s.
And how often they rebought.
Yep. Okay. What they found was eye-opening. Customers giving Xerox 5s were 6 times more likely to repurchase Xerox equipment than those giving the company only 4s. So you talk about the difference between repurchasing and customer loyalty, not customer satisfaction, but how customer satisfaction relates to customer loyalty. They were 6 times more likely to repurchase than the 5s, or than the 4s, excuse me. Okay. And going forward, okay, now you're trying to decide where am I going to address more of my resources? So do I need to pour all of my resources into moving customers from 4 to 5s, or do I need to pour my resources into the very, very bottom level, all of these terrorists, these people, the terrorists and the hostages, the people that don't like doing business with us, should I pour my resources in there? Okay. So you go to this quote. They have the U.S. Office of Consumer Affairs. Okay. They found that satisfied customers for consumer services in their survey were likely to tell 5 other people whether or not they were potential customers. They were going to tell 5 other people about their satisfaction with a particular service. Okay. So you look at customer satisfaction. I'm satisfied 4 or 5 on average. I'm going to tell 5 people. Okay. On the other hand, dissatisfied customers were likely to tell 11 other people. Dissatisfied. 1 or 2, I am dissatisfied. I'm going to tell 11 other people. While these figures vary greatly from one service to the next, it suggests the positive and negative leverage to be gained from developing either satisfied or dissatisfied customers respectively. So what we're finding is that the biggest areas for you to spend your resources on are those people that are on the verge of percolation and becoming a 5, and the most upset and irate customers. Okay. So we want to move those irate customers out of our metric, move them out of the service area, move them out of our funnel, and we want to move the people that we have done a good job with up to a 5 and exceed their expectations. I'm very passionate about those 2 quotes.
We had talked about previously in yesterday's episode about the incorrect assumption that efforts to improve satisfaction should concentrate on customers in the lowest satisfaction categories. But just like you were saying, from the book again, apostles are not only satisfied, but regularly tell others about a product or service, becoming an extension of the sales force. For this reason, it is often a wise use of effort and money to convert near apostles to apostles. By the same token, it may be a poor investment of resources to concentrate on raising the satisfaction level of customers not already registering 4s on the 5-point scale, with one exception, the terrorists. So he's saying if they're a 4, it's worth spending money and resources to get them to a 5. And if they're a 1, it's worth spending money and resources to get them off the 1. Because the 5s are going to tell 5 people, and the 1s are going to tell 11 people. And that's where that's where you get the majority of your impact here.
That's right.
Okay. So that's what you want to focus on with those scores. If you have somebody that's on the 4 range, maybe closer to a 5, it's going to be worth you going the extra mile to wow them to get them to 5. Okay. And if they're a 1, it might be worth you biting the bullet, giving them a refund, doing something extra for them, whatever, just to get them off the 1, get them up to a 2, but at least they're not going to go tell the whole world about you anymore.
That's right.
Okay. Let's talk about the importance of focus here, Marshall. Here's a quote for you, and I want to get your feedback. Organizations that have not identified the customers they are targeting have a special handicap in achieving total customer satisfaction. They too often attempt to please everyone, creating too many merely satisfied customers and too few apostles in the very core of the customer base in which they should be investing. Marshall, what are they talking about here?
Okay, so if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Okay.
I think that's the quote here. And so I think too often companies will dilute their marketing, dilute their core values, dilute their culture in efforts to please everybody and be politically correct.
Okay.
And what you find is that there's fewer customers that fall in love with your product and service, fall in love with your brand when you do this. Okay. So specifically, what you have to do is you have to be so passionate in leading with your core mission, your core values, your core culture. You have to bring that spiritual infusion into what you do in order to achieve those apostles, and therefore not just merely satisfy them, but completely satisfy them and exceed their expectations.
Okay. So you're saying that you need to know who your customers are, dial down on them specifically. The previous examples in previous episodes of Taco Bell, they said, yeah, some people like the kitchen experience. Some people like the sit down, but our ideal customers are people that don't care. So we're going to go ahead and kick out the other people and just focus on the people that really care.
Correct.
So it might not even be like a politically correct sort of thing. It might just be I'm going to cater to these people's needs specifically and not these people's needs.
So specifically, you need to identify who you are targeting. Step 1, identify who is your ideal and likely customer.
Yes.
If you've not already.
I think that's part of the do your job, right?
All right, don't try to make too much out of it. Just do your job.
Whether it was kickers throwing passes.
I don't know what goes on in the rest of this sound clip.
Receivers
Kickers
making
throwing passes and stuff like that, which sounds exciting.
Or linebackers.
But the quote, Bill Belichick, the quote, do your job, I think that's part of the whole, like, what do I need to do for marketing? Well, number 1, find out who you're marketing to.
That's true.
And the surveys and ongoing feedback are going to help you too. Okay, let's talk about creating terrorists. Marshall, we teased this a little bit yesterday. We talked about why terrorists might not be their fault they're a terrorist.
Not their fault.
It might sort of be your fault that they're a terrorist.
Not their fault. Not your fault. Not Dan's fault.
I'll read this here, and I want to find out your take on this. Creating tariffs as a byproduct of focusing on a specific demographic. Now, we just told you to focus on a specific demographic. We just said you should find out who your customers are and market to them specifically. This is from the book. Just because you have a terrorist doesn't mean your product or service is bad. It means the wrong demo fell into your lap. It wasn't designed for them. It is the uninitiated Southwest flyer who may expect a meal on board, luggage interchange, or a nonstop long-distance flights. So you might get somebody on, probably not anymore, because I think less and less companies are doing this anyway. But I'm sure back in the day, you got on a Southwest flight, you're expecting to get a meal. And then you didn't get a meal, and now you're upset.
If you have created a product or service with a business model that services a population, a segment of the population,
Go on.
and you have a customer that is not a part of that segment of the population, and they are mad at your business model, that's not your fault. If you are wanting a haircut, but you do not want to join a membership model where you do not have to wait, and you do not want a beer upon arrival, and you do not want a shampoo, elephant in the room is probably not a good fit for you. For those that want a beer and want a shampoo and don't want to wait for their haircut and schedule appointments every time that they go in for a haircut, elephant in the room is probably a great fit. And your first haircut's $1. That's what we're talking about here. If they fall out of that segment, then you should not feel obligated to servicing them or going to the ends of the world to make them happy. Hot sizzle.
I was a little bit late here. I knew you were getting passionate about Elephant in the Room.
Our timing has not been perfect.
Timing has not been perfect today.
No.
I'll take the blame for that one. I'm going to run some extra laps after practice.
You just keep letting it run.
Let's let that run for a little bit longer. Let's talk about firing customers. Now, we just said that you should focus on a specific demographic. And we just said that means you're probably going to make some people upset. And making people upset in this case is a good thing, because it means you're making other people happy. Not in like I'm doing a bad job, now my people are upset, not that. But I'm focusing on these specific cores, not these specific cores. You had brought up firing customers in a previous episode. Talk about firing customers. What are we talking about here?
What we're doing is we are firing customers. We are moving them out of the sales funnel. We're moving them off of our regular repurchasing, because these are the customers that consistently create headaches for the entire organization, and they take resources away from the other customers that we want to do more business with. Typically, this is a customer that creates a lot of problems. Typically, this is a one-off customer. Typically, this is a customer that's not very profitable. Okay, so these are all different customers that we do not want to continue and perpetuate the relationships with. Okay, so specifically, what we have to have in place is the latitude to fire customers. So, for example, Southwest Airlines had a few unruly passengers on their planes, and the flight attendants actually have the latitude to ask certain passengers to get off the plane. And Southwest Airlines stands behind the employees in doing so. So this is an example of having the latitude. It's one of your frontline people having the latitude to fire customers based on certain policies that are in place.
But Marshall, if I kick those people off the plane, we're going to have to refund them their money. It's going to cost the company a couple $100, $300, $400.
And you can use that extra time and resources that you're not dealing with that customer for other people.
To focus on the customers that will be repeat buyers that are more in my ideal and likely buyer demographic.
Correct.
I was better with the timing that time.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that was on the record, because the first two times I was not, but I learned my lesson. Stayed late after practice. Now I'm getting it.
You just keep doing laps.
Okay, so we've talked about how to improve from different customer listening posts, whether that's surveys, whether that's feedback that you're constantly getting from your front lines, whatever you need to do to make sure that you're consistently getting that feedback, and how those surveys is more important that it's done frequently, consistently, and that they're simple is much more important than give me specifically this and that, like what you put in the survey doesn't matter as much as long as you're at least asking them overall satisfaction number-wise. Tell me. Like that's got to be in there at least once. We've talked about the importance of focusing on a certain demographic, not everything, just focus on a certain demographic, and how that's going to create some terrorists in some areas and sometimes, and that's okay. Because that's actually good for your business. That means that you're actually driving people to be loyal. The people that you're focusing on, they'll see you as one of them. They'll say, this guy hits my needs. This business hits my needs. I'm loyal to this business now, as opposed to being a bland, we're mercenaries for everybody because we don't want to focus on anybody specifically.
That's right.
Okay. And then we talked about firing customers. Firing customers. Marshall, have you had to fire a customer before?
Yes.
I know with the photo company, we fire customers on almost a weekly basis. We talk to somebody on the phone. They don't fit our model. We go through our whole thing. We tell them what we do, and they're wanting something completely out of our workflow, completely out of what we do. And you know what? We're like, you know what? I don't think we're a good fit. We could go ahead and take their money, but we know that down the road it's going to be a problem.
Right.
So we're like, you know what? I don't think we're going to be a good fit. Thank you. Have a great wedding. Hope everything goes great. But our employees, our salespeople have that, they can do that. If they feel like this is going to be a red flag, don't book them.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Daily win here, Marshall. Daily win. Let's see here. Let's go with a little bit of a... Yeah. So I need you to be any of the James Bonds you want. You can be Sean Connery. You can be the Roger guy. I forgot his last name.
I can't talk out of the side of my mouth like Sean Connery.
There's more. Pierce Brosnan was a James Bond.
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig. That's one of them. Who's Roger? Did I make up Roger?
I think you made up
I think I made up Roger. Okay, you can be any.
Why don't I be the Roger?
You be the Roger version of James Bond. The documentary that never made it to the big screen. You get to be that James Bond, and give us the daily win.
So, what is the mission, Dan? Do we have a mission? Well, before we start the mission, I'm going to need a martini. Dirty. Shaken, not stirred. I need my Walter PPK pistol that always seemed too small for my hands. And then I'm gonna need a lot of cool gadgets from Q. And then I'm gonna need M to give me my mission. I'm gonna need Dan to tee up the daily wins of the week. I'm gonna call you D. I'm gonna need D.
The accent gets a D-, but the attention to detail A+. Attention to detail was there.
That's about par for the course.
Okay.
D- accent.
D- accent. A+ attention to detail.
That's my strong suit.
Okay, go ahead and give us the daily win. This one fits into today's episode. That's why we put this here. Go ahead and give this one to us.
We actually, I can't stop bragging on these guys. Delricht, the Delricht Clinical Research down in New Orleans, they do an incredible job just because they focus on execution, and huge win for them is they actually had an organization reach out to them that might scale their business into about 5 times the size of the business, which is
no big deal.
No big deal.
Just gonna grow by 5 times in one phone call.
Yeah, is incredible. And actually, that's today. That phone call is actually today, and so I'm excited to follow up with them. Now, for Delricht, they actually were in the same position. They had a ton of customers, about maybe 10 to 15% that were terrorist customers. And so we're like, how do we get rid of more of these terrorist customers? And they go, well, they always ask all these questions. They ask, about, consent and everything. And, they take up a ton of time and they create headaches and they have these questions and they frequently never actually start the study with us. Okay. And I go, Okay, so how can we get around this? And what we came to the conclusion of is we go, all right, just send them the consent form ahead of time. And then they see and they walk through and they have all these questions. And the people that sincerely like have good questions, like insightful questions, they'll ask the questions at their screening interview. The people that are just tire kickers and they are, not a good fit, they don't show up for their appointments. And so we mitigate all of those headache clients just by sending them the consent form ahead of time. It's awesome.
So Delrict is killing it.
Rachel and Tyler, I'll tell you what, if you don't come out for a workshop, I'm going to be very, very sad. But we want you guys out here for one of our 2-day workshops.
Speaking of 2-day workshops, what we do here at Thrive 15, yesterday we talked about those 2-day workshops. You can find more information about at thrivetimeshow.com/workshops. Today we're going to talk about the online platform. For $1, you can get access to hundreds. Is it thousands yet? Is it thousands?
Thousands.
To thousands of videos, of training videos from mentors such as Lee Cockrell, David Robinson, Michael Levine, Dr. Robert Zellner, Clay Clark. There's so many people that have built huge businesses that are giving you specific information on how to do this thing, how to grow your business. It's crazy, and you can get access to all these videos for $1 for the first month, Marshall.
That's hot.
$1. Thrive15.com. Go on there today. Go ahead and do it now.
Right now.
Do it now.
Now.
3, 2, 1, go.
Now.
Go. Now.
Now.
Okay. That was episode 56, the Daily Hustle episode 56, the Lawrence Taylor episode. Standing over to my left and taller than I am, Marshall Morris. Over here, Daniel McKenna. We'll see you next time for episode 57 of the Daily Hustle. Kaboom.